Hello, good day everyone, and welcome to TPCC 12, known as the Principles of Transportation Engineering. So for today's entry, we will discuss the part 1 of the chapter 4, which is entitled Introduction to Travel Demand and Forecasting. So on today's chapter, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to define what is travel demand forecasting, discuss each factors that affects travel demand, compare the different methods of trip generation model, calculate problems relating to trip generation model. And we have the topics to discuss on this chapter. First, we must discuss the travel demand forecasting, demand forecasting approaches, factors affecting travel demand, forecasting study area, steps of travel forecasting, the 4-step travel demand model, and lastly, we have the trip generation and its methods. So first, let us discuss what is travel demand forecasting. So if we say travel demand, it is expressed as the number of persons or vehicles per unit time that can be expected to travel on a given segment of a transportation system under the set of given land use, socio-economic, and environmental conditions. So, ano pala yung purpose ng ating travel demand forecasting? So, forecast of travel demand are used as a reference for constructions of new routes or highways and expansion of existing facilities for the future use. Next is, let us discuss about the demand forecasting approaches. So there are two types of travel demand forecasting boundaries. First is the urban travel demand forecast, and the second is the intercity travel demand forecast. The urban travel demand forecast, which involves data concerning the travel maker such as age, sex, income, vehicle ownership, etc. Then to intercity travel demand forecast, it involves city population, average city income, travel time, or travel cost between city pairs. So in short, if we say urban travel demand forecast, we are referring to the subjects such as the population or the travelers, such as the people in the residential area or in the city itself. So each of these individual have different parameters such as age, sex, income that may affect the behavior patterns of the trip generation. Then we have in intercity travel demand forecast. To make it short, it refers to the city as a whole, So we have the properties of the city such as the population inside the city, the average city income, or let us say if we compare the distance travel from one city to another, so we are considering the travel time or travel cost, on that particular trip. So from city to city. Next is we have factors affecting travel demand. So what are the factors that affects the travel demand? The first one, we have three factors, So the first one is we have land use characteristics. The second, we have socio-economic characteristics, availability of transportation services as the last. So let us discuss what is land use characteristics. So unsa dining land use characteristics? So these are the primary determinant of travel demand. The amount of traffic generated by a parcel of land depends on how the land is used. So for example, shopping centers, residential complexes, and office buildings produce different traffic generation patterns. As we know, class, nga inside a city proper, so from the residential area, now we can say that some individuals have different types of employment. Of course, if we say people inside a residential area, so naa sila lain-lain class nga trips nga ma-generate. So for example, diri sa sulod sa tuang balay palangdaan, nanatay ibutang nato 5 ka members. So the first one, the head of the family can have a different pattern is because siya man ang kuan kining uh, earner, or let us say murag naga-income sa ilaha by means of work, no? So ang iyahang trip kasagaran, therefore, since nga work iyaha, siya ang naga-produce og income sa family, so the head of the family may have a pattern of home to work nga trip. Samantalang ang the rest is, let us say, member of family such as children nga ga-eskwela pa, so possible nga ilahang trip could be home to school, no? Then ang wife, medyo housewife naman siya, so magpabili lang siya sa house, or otherwise she can go shopping, no? So lain-lain sila og trip every member of the family. So therefore, because of this one, the land use class, it is dako kayo siyang murag naghatag siya og motivation, or siya ang may nagsilbing reason para makahimo og or maka-generate og trip ang usa ka individual, no? Okay, so that is why it affects the travel demand, no? Okay, next is the socio-economic characteristics of the people living within the city also influence the travel demand for transportation. So lifestyles and values affect how people decide to use their resources for transportation. So for example, a residential area consisting primarily of high-income workers will generate more trips by automobile per person than a residential area populated primarily by retirees. So if we say retirees class, dili naman nila kinahanglan nga magsigig trip, no? So magpundo na lang na sila, magstay na lang na sila silang balay, no? But when it comes to workers, so it is possible that mag-produce sila or mag-generate sila og mga trips is because they are work, let us say na sila mag-generate nga work from home, work to home, then home to work, no? Nga scenario. Then aside from that class, if just in case og mo abot ang ilahang salary, so aside from the trips that from home to work, possible nga mo latagaw pa na sila sa mga area, no? Okay, sa mga ingunana. It's because of their lifestyle, no? So that is how the socio-economic characteristics may affect the travel demand. Next is we have the availability of transportation facilities and services. So referred to as the supply also affects the travel demand, the demand for travel. So travelers are sensitive to the level of service provided by alternative transportation modes. When deciding whether to travel or at all or which mode to use, they consider attributes such as travel time, cost, convenience, comfort, and safety. Okay, so pananglitan class, no? Naka sa area nga dool ka og terminal, tapos gusto nimo mo bakasyon somewhere, no, sa lain nga lugar. So ang imong ginahuna na class is the availability of the transportation. Unsaon pag-abot atong destination nimo? So either kung pwede ka mo sakay og train, pwede ka mo by auto, then pwede ka by airplane, no? Okay. So we have a different modes to choose from. So therefore, kung time conscious ka, so you may select the fastest, no? Kung dili magmatter sa imo ang kwarta, so you may select airplane, no? So pero kung kuan ka kana medyo conscious ka sa time pero gusto nimo nga mas makales ka, okay, you can go to railway, pero kinahanglan nimo mo gasto para sa kung mo adto kag mga remote areas, no, additional. Then kung if you have a car na kay sarili, kung ganado ka mo biyahe by car, so you can select, no, the mode by car, no, pag naka sa momentum bitaw nga mag-drive. Okay, so anyway, depende na siya sa traveler. So that is how it affects the travel demand, no? Okay, next, so selecting the forecasting study area. So selecting an area of study is one of the necessary elements of establishing the transport planning models, and those area are referred to as the traffic analysis zone or the TAZ, no? So those zone must fall on this following criteria. So in order for you to create a forecasting study area, okay, for example, kining makita niyo dire sa kuan sa image. Okay, so wala ta nagmatter sa area mismo sa yuta, no? So nagmatter ta sa this following criteria. First is the socio-economic characteristics should be homogeneous, no? Socio-economic, therefore, kan abitong the socio-economic kanang let us say ma-categorize na to sila into different class of income, no? Let us say low income, middle income, and the higher income nga household, no? Okay, so by this, another criteria we must consider are the intrazonal trips should be minimized. If we say intrazonal trips, kanang trips that is outside, no, the boundary, no. Then we have the zones must have under 3,000 people on it regardless of the size of the area. So on that area class, kinahanglan nga naa siya at least mga 3,000 people, no. So makategorize nimo na siya as one zone, no. So if it is exceed siya og another kung wala pa siya kabot og 3,000, so kinahanglan dakuan nimo ang area of coverage, no. So just like this one. So kung makita niyo sa image class, lain-lain sila og size sa area. It's because we are considering only the population, no, the number of people inside on this area. So dire makita nato siya nga gagmay ang area is because sa dire lang daan nga area abot na siya og 3,000. So the area doesn't matter, no. What matters most is the number of people on that zone. Okay, zones should not be created within other zones. Meaning to say that if you create one zone, so dapat walay matung-an nga another zone diri dapita, no. Wala siya murag donut or something, no. So dili sila mag-overlap. Dapat ang iyahang porma niya is mura siya og jigsaw, no. So dikit-dikit dili siya, let us say this area tapos naapatay zone diri sa tunga niya, no. So walay ingunana. It should be naa lang sa tapad, no. So dapat ang iyahang porma niya mura siya jigsaw again, no. So the zone system should generate and attract approximately equal trips, household population or area. For example, labor force and employment should be similar. So imo siyang i-balance nimo class, no, ang ilahang characteristics with regards to the trip inside the zone, no, different types of trips. Okay. Next is we have zones with very large area or low trips are discarded, no. So kung naatay zone which sobra pud kayo, dako kayo ang yang area considering only the population, so atuan na siyang i-discard, no. So dali nato na siya apilon. Next is traffic analysis zone boundaries must adjust according to political, administrative, or statistical boundaries. So let us say for example class, when it comes to per barangay, so barangay is considered as a political or administrative, no, and statistical also, kay because in every barangay naman na siya sakop, no. So dapat na siya considering nga pila pud ka number of sakop. So by that it should be divided, no, according to kung kuan class ibutang nato barangay madaom lang pud na siya diha, no. Okay, kung kuan Bisan village lang po na dapita. So if we are considering 10,000 per person per zone, so pwede din mo siya i-bahin-bahin basta as long as 3,000 people siya, no, at least. Then na sila sa pwede mangyapon nimo siya ma-divide is because they are at the same political and administrative boundaries, no. Kuan sila, pareha sila og jurisdiction sa usa ka boundary. Okay. Next, okay. So this is in order for us to gather a certain data, so let us say ang kini manggong kuan class travel forecast is part ni siya sa stages of transportation planning. So na siya sa ikatulong nga stage, but things if you start all things, kinahanglan nimo og kanang data. So, in order for you to gather data, mao ni siya ang sample format sa ato ang questionnaire or questionnaire, no. questionnaire date questionnaire tawag na to ani sample survey form, no, survey form rather dala ng pangalan na gani, survey form, no, in order for you to gather the data of each individual, or let us say each household, no, household man ni siya, dili din ni siya individual, household data. Okay, so per household hatagan nimo sila ingon ani. Then we have per member of the family, kinahanglan i-identify nimo ang ilahang occupation, then asa dapita ang ilahang industry, meaning to say the area kung asa sila ga work or asa sila usually nagaadto. Presa ng kita say kung nag-eskwela pa siya, so asa dapita ang ilang eskwelahan nga maoy ginaadtuan sa mga bata. Okay. Then considering their age, their sex, of course pag lalaki lahi man ang kining pattern sa lalaki ug sa babaeng no, kanang way of thinking. So usually kasagaran nagalaag ang lalaki, no, ang babae murag dili kay, I don't know, depende siguro sa type of person. I cannot say kung kinsay mas lagan, lalaki ba or babae. Then we must consider the following, no. Okay, we have in terms of administrative, so i-consider ni muna sila. Then we have, okay, muna siya, no. Okay, so this is the sample format for the survey form. Okay, so on the next stage class, di ba sa tuang next stage sa tuang transportation planning was the transportation model, right? Okay, so ma-discuss nato na ang isa dira, no. Okay, so let us in order for us to do the forecasting, okay, there are steps of travel forecasting, no. The approach most commonly used to forecast travel demand is based on the land use and travel characteristics. So that provide the basis for the four-step process of trip generation, trip distribution, modal choice, and traffic assignment illustrated in figure 12.1. Okay, so mao na siya karon ang atoang transportation model. Okay. So in order for us to conduct this model, okay, so first let us categorize the land use and the travel characteristics, no? Then by that, after we gather those data, okay, so we will now proceed to trip generation. Then so sa trip generation class, we may able to determine the number of trips per household on a certain zone every day, no. Then after that, once nga mahibal-an nato ang number of trips, average number of trips per day, okay, in every zone, so we will go now to the trip distribution. Then by the next model, we have the mode choice, which we are referring to the mode of transportation nga ilahang gamiton. So ang trip distribution class, okay, if you might recall, trip distribution, it refers to the okay, ato lang na siyang i-discuss later on, kay medyo ako nang i-detail. Anyway, napatay ko na, no? Okay, magyan pa nato na siya. So the four-step travel demand model, okay, originally developed in 1950s and 1960s when planning major highways facilities. Okay, four decisions are basis of the traditional travel demand model. First is the choice and reason of travel, then the destination to travel to, then the mode by which to travel, and the route on which to travel. So, mo ni siya class, no, sa ato ang mga transportation model na to. First is the trip generation. How many trips will be generated on a certain location and when it occurs? Now, in trip distribution, we might have some asking on what are the origins and destinations of these trips, no? Unsay ilahang origins and destination. Okay, next, the mode choice, which mode of transport will be used for that trip, no? Okay. So sa trip generation, we are referring to how many trips will be generated, pila ka trips ang mahimo sa usa ka zone. Sa trip distribution, unsa ang iyahang mga origins o ang iyahang destination. Sa mode choice, unsa ang iyahang transport mode nga ato ang gamiton for such trip. And the last one, we have the traffic assignment. Okay, it tackles to the question, which route in the transportation network will be used for the trip? Meaning to say, if you are a traveler, which of this one is the most effective or which the most optimal, no? In terms of travel savings time, cost, no? So, cost and comfort, no? Okay. So, by this, we will discuss first the first travel forecasting model, no, which is the trip generation. So what is a trip generation? So I think nanatay idea ng trip generation, no? If we say trip generation is the process of determining the number of trips that will begin or end in such analysis, a traffic analysis zone or task within a study area. So trips that are determined without regard to destination are referred to as trip ends. Trip has two ends according the purpose, either produced or attracted. So duha daw ka klase nga ends of trip. Okay, produced or attracted. So if we say produced, okay, ato na siyang ikuha na to later on. Dapat i-discuss na to. Okay, so the purpose of the trip generation is to determine the frequency of origins or destinations of trips in each zone by trip purpose as a function of land uses and household demographics and other socioeconomic factors. So list of household demographic and socioeconomic factors that may be related to trip generation, such as locations such as urban, suburban and rural areas, household income, household size, and auto ownership. So this is what we call as the production and attraction class. So trip generation can be fall into either of these two groups. Natay home-based trip, natay non-home-based trips. So if we say home-based trip, trips are originated or destined at home, no? Then we have non-home-based trips, that is trip generated or destined neither at home, meaning to say dili siya naga-trip into home. So parehas ini, for example, we have this one is an example of home-based trips. We have from home, so mag-produce siya of trips which is attracted to work, no? Let us say, kung naay isa diya sa inyo ang home, or let us say, individual diya sa inyong home, nagtrabaho, so siya, attracted siya to work. So, if we say, sa perspective sa home, ga-produce siya, no? Ga-produce siya og trip. Then, ang work, mo'y nag-attract sa usa ka individual para makahimo siya og trip. Then, dayon, once nga, after na niya makahimo siya ang work, so the work will make a production, vice versa, no? Kung ato ang isa na to ang perspective diri sa work, so mag-produce siya og trip padulong sa home, no? Okay. So ma-attract siya padulong sa home. So baliktad, no? Bali-bali. Okay. So that is an example of home-based trips. So what are the non-home-based trips? So let us say, for example, if ikaw galing ka sa work tapos kanang siguro naka-decide ka after work kinahanglan nimo mag-shopping, so that is one example of non-home based trips. So we have from work, for example, gikan ka og school tapos gisugo ka si mong mama nga mag-grocery. Okay, from work we have naga-produce siya og attraction to shopping, no? Okay, so that is pagkuan siya, let us say for example, kung gikan siya sa shop tapos wala pa nahuman ang iyang time for work, kinahanglan niya muuli, so mabalik sa work, so that is we have a trip production from the shop going that is attracted to work, no? So that is an example of non-home based trips. Okay. Now, when it comes to trip generation, the trip generation has three mathematical methods. The first one is the cross classification. Then we have trip rate analysis, and we have multiple regression analysis. So take note, class, that the main purpose of trip generation is to estimate the number and types of trips originating and terminating in zones. Okay, importante, class, nga ma-determine nato ang the type of trips, no, nga nag-originate. Either home-based trips siya or non-home-based trips. So, mo ni siya nga mga independent variables nga tuang i-consider. The first one is the population density of a certain zone. Then, we have number of households. No? Then, we have average household size. Let us say, in a one household, pila ka buok number of members. Then, we have average number of workers in the household. Isa po na sa mga example, no? Then, workers per zone. If you are referring only for workers, no? Limited lang ang imong study through workers. Dili nimo gina-consider ang mga trip of the students. Okay, then we have car ownership. Okay, why does nganong kinahanglan man nato i-consider ang car ownership? Siyempre, pag naa kay vehicle class, of course, you are attracted to many types of land use, no? Kay mura man kag kung nakay sakinan, nakay kanang privilege bitawag na to nakay capability nga mo lakaw, no, mo produce og trips, no? Okay, then we have the average income per household and we have the average number of students per household kung imuhang considering nimo ang trip considering the students. Okay, so let us discuss the first method, that is the cross classification. So the cross classification is a technique developed by the Federal Highway Administration to determine the number of trips that begin or end at home. So this method uses the following submodel such as income submodel that relates the households and various income categories. Then we have auto ownership submodel which relates the household income to auto ownership. Then we have trip production submodel establishes the relationship between the trips made by each household and the independent variables. Katong independent variables nga tuang gisgot kaniya. Trip purpose submodel which relates the trip purposes to income in such a manner that the trip productions can be divided among various purpose. These models are developed using origin destination travel surveys. Okay. So magamit nato ng trip purpose class by means of kanang bitong identify nato which of these following trips i-categorize nato siya, which of these following trips are home based and the other one is non-home based. Okay, so what is the procedure in order for us to do this cross classification? First, you need to establish a relation by tabulation between the income category and household percentage. Then, we have established the relation by tabulation between income category and auto ownership. Then, tabulate the number of trips per day based on the number of auto ownership and income category. Last, okay, dili paray. Napay kaupat. Calculate the number of trips per day generated into the zone. And lastly, we have calculate the number of trips per day by purpose. Okay, purpose, if we say purpose, mamana siya tong home-based and non-home-based. Okay, so let us do a sample problem. Okay, consider a zone that is located in a suburban area of a city. So the population and income data of the zone are as follows. So number of dwelling units is 60. Average income for dwelling unit is $44,000. Determine the total number of trips per day generated in the zone for each trip purpose, assuming that the characteristic depicted on figures 12.2 through 12.5 apply in this situation. So the problem is solved in 4 basic steps. Okay, so motong na 4 basic steps ganiha. Okay, actually 5 to siya kay gi-include man nato ang kinahanglan nato identify ang trip purpose. Okay, so naatay table, naatay quandary class, naatay graph dire which designates the average zonal income versus household in income category. So the first step is kinahanglan nato mag-create tag table gikan ani, no? In order to determine the number of household percentage over the income category. Okay, second, we have households by automobile ownership and income category. So we need to determine the number of household, and we have in terms of the automobile ownership and income category. So mag-create tag tabulation ani. Then we have trips per household per day by auto ownership and income category. And we have lastly we have the trips by purpose and income category. So under this figure 12.2 class tong sa permero nato nga figure, okay, we create a table under this figure. So we have the low income under $32,000. So the number of household that is nasya sa 9%, no? While in medium, okay, how do we know kung asa siya nang intersect, no? Sa last portion, there is sa may $44,000 average zone income. Okay. So sa average zone income, so 9% ang sa low, sa medium is 40. Then sa high we have 51. Okay. Next is determine the distribution of auto ownership per household in each income category. So we have the figure right here, household by automobile ownership and income category. So we have the categories of income, we have low, medium, and high, and the number of auto per household. So this line right here is nasya for automobile. Okay, the number of automobile which is 2 plus, meaning to say sobra pa sa duha, no? Or duha. Then we have 0 autos, kitong Y sakinan. Then we have naay isa ka sakinan. So sa low medium class, kung asa siya na-intercept, so on the 0 auto, unahon na itong sa 0 auto, there are 50 to 54% sa atong household kay sa atong low income ang walay sakinan. Meaning to say 54, no? Okay. Next is sa ato ang medium income sa 0 auto, okay, we have 4, no? Then sa high income, we have, okay, sa 0, this is 2, no? Anyway, dili na to makita, no? Okay, 2 auto. Okay, considering this line, no? Okay, for 0, no? Okay, next is 1. So household nga nagtag-iya og isa ka sakinan, considering 1 auto, kini siya nga line. So for low income, we have that is 42, no? Sa 42 siya nag-intersect. Then sa medium, we have 58, no? Then sa atuang high, okay, auto dra. Okay, that is 30, no? 30. Then sa number of auto that is 2 plus o 2 or more, okay, in low income naa sila'y upat. Sa medium, okay, sa medium we have that is 38. Then sa high we have 68, no? So that is how to create a table, no? Okay, next is step 3. Determine the number of trips per household per day for each income or auto ownership category. So by this figure, we have trips per household per day by auto ownership and income category. So we have the category right here in income and the number of auto per household. So pila ka trips ang ilang nahimo each, no? So for low income, okay, sa 0 autos we have at least 1, no? Then sa medium, kay naatay 2. Then sa high, we have 3. Dili na makita ang 3. Anyway, dili na to ni siya problema when it comes to ano. Medyo bana-bana lang ang figures. Then we have 1 for 1 auto. Sa low income, so that is 6. Then sa medium, nag-intersect siya sa 8. Then sa high, so preferably that will be mga 11, no? So dili man nato may balaan pila gyud ang figures dire. But anyway, medyo below siya sa 13, so let us say 11, no? Then sa mga 2 plus nga number of vehicle or auto ownership, so we have for low income na siya yung mga, okay, baba siya sa mga 8, so that is mga 7. Then sa medium, we have nag-intersect siya sa 13, no? Then lastly, sa high income, so that is above siya sa 13, so more likely nasa siya 15. Okay. So next, step 4. Calculate the number of trips per day generated in a zone using this formula, no? So PGH is the number of trips per day produced in a household at the income level G and auto ownership. So ang HH class is the number of household in the zone. So ang number of household nato ganiya is 60 man to, di ba? So base sa atong problem, so number of household is 60. Then we have IG is the percentage of household in decimal in a zone with income level. So naman tay kadong sa una, no, mo ni siya first nato nga table nato, the number of percentage sa atong household. So paggamit nato ini nga formula class, it should be in decimal. Then next we have the first next parameter, okay, percentage of household or in decimal in income level with H autos per household, no? Okay, so A is the, okay, so the percentage of household in income level na dunay auto. Then we have PH, okay, PT dito ganiha, no? PGH. Okay, we have the number of trips per day produced in household at income level G and auto ownership, no? Okay, so this one, no, naadri dapita. Okay, next, to calculate this one, okay, the total number of trips per day generated in the zone shall be calculated by the following. So let us say naman tayo kitong sa problem nato, we have a number of dwelling units nga 60. Then sa atong household income, okay, for the first, di ba, sa atong category nato, the first category sa atong low income is, di ba, mga 9% man to siya. Okay, balik ta. So that is na 9%, no? So that is 0.9. Then this one, the 0.54 is the household by income and auto. So gikan ani diri nga data, di ba? 54 sa low income, take note 0, no? Okay, so kani class is, kung makita ninyo, income auto ownership, L meaning siya, meaning pasabot ani low income, then 0 auto ownership. So low income, so household income, household na to percentage is 9%. Then sa tuang number of auto is 0, so we have 54. Then ang 1, so asa nagikan natong 1? This is trips made per day produced per household. Okay, so asa man siya gikan? Dire, no? So number of trips per household per day, 1, no? Okay, so on the next, we have low income and we have 1 auto ownership. So we have 60 multiplied by 9. Kay low pamanta, napamanta sa low. So multiplied by 9, and we have, kini siya is the number of, okay, we have sa 1 auto, no? So we have 42. So 0.42 times 6, which is 6, no? Sa low pamanta, low. Okay, so tanan low, no? Okay, so low tanan. So we have 167. So 167. Then we have 0.54, 0.42, 0.04. So 0.54, 0.42, then 0.04. Then we have naman ta sa low, napata sa 0.9. This one. Okay. Next for medium, medium. Okay, medium income, we have 60, the number of household multiplied by 0.40. So asa man gikan ning 0.40? Gikan diri sa number of household, no? Percentage 40. Then we have 0.04, 0.58, then 0.38. So nagikan ni siya dire sa the number of auto, no? 0.04, 0.58, then 0.38. No? Okay. Then asa man gikan ning 2, 8, 13, no? So diri siya gikan sa medium, which is 2, 8, and 13. So ayaw lang mo ka-confuse sa inyong table class kay naka-specified naman ni siya, no? So mo ning gitawag karon nga cross classification is because you are using the different independent parameters. Imuha silang gi-merge og imuha silang mura siya gisabong ba, no? Okay. Next, gi-cross match nimo. Okay, next is sa 0.51. Asa man gikan ning 0.51? Ang 0.51 is sa atuang number of household, which is 51%, no? Diri sa may high income. So 51.51, then kining 0.02, 0.3, and 0.68 diri na siya, no? 0.02, 0.3, 0.30, and 0.68. Then this one, we have the number of trips generated. We have 3, 11, and 15. Okay, ang diri lang dapita class ang maoy percentage, no, in terms of percent. I-convert nimo siya into decimal using this formula. Since we are referring to percentage, di ba? Okay, so dapat i-convert gid nato siya into decimal. This one is dili man siya in terms of percentage, so whole number siya. Okay. So ato ang i-total nato when it comes to low income. Sa low income, ang total number of trips generated is 19. Sa middle income, we have trips total generated, we have 232, and sa high income we have 415. All in all, a total of 666 trips, no? Okay, 666 burag kuan, markas demonyo. Okay. So that is how to calculate your total number of trips per day generated in one zone. Okay. Next, okay, the last one, no? Determine the percentage of trips by trip purpose and its total. So base ta sa figure 12.5, okay, we have natay home-based other, natay non-home-based, and natay home-based work. So tulo ka klase nga purpose. Okay, sa low class, sa low income, if you might recall, the number of trips per day nato is sa tong low income is 19. Right? So 19. So ibase nato diri ang percentage nga multiplier para sa home-based other. Okay, sa home-based other mo ni siya, no? So sa low, that is about, okay, di man nato maklaro, so atong i-assume nato nga 0.55, no? 55% of trips, no? Okay. So 19 man ang na-generate diri sa low. Okay, so 19 multiplied by 0.55, that is 10, no? 10 number of trips. Sa non-home based, we have 19 multiplied by non-home based. Okay, na siya sa baba sa 32, so presumably na siya sa mga 30%. So ato siyang multiply 19 times 0.30, so that is equal to 6, no? Okay. Then we have sa home-based work. Okay, sa low income, so below siya sa 17, so preferably mga na siya sa mga 15%. So 19 times 0.15, so that is equal to 3. Next is let us go to the medium. So we have 232. So asam na gikan ng 232? That is gikan na siya sa total number of trips generated sa tuang medium income, no? Okay. So sa medium income, when it comes to home-based other, so naa siya ay 0.51%. So 0.51%, 0.51 multiplied by 232, so that is 118. Then sa non-home based, so multiply nimo ang yang percentage number of trips sa non-home based, that is equivalent to 32%. So that is 232 times 0.032, that is equal to 74. Then we have home-based work. So 232 multiplied by, nag-intersect siya sa 17. So 17.17, so equal to 40. Then sa high, we have 415. Okay, asa man nagikan ni 415? Total ni siya sa ato ang high income, no? Na-generate niya nga trips. So 415 yang na-generate nga trips. So 415 multiplied by, okay, below siya sa 51, so nga lang assume lang nato siya nga 0.48. So multiply nimo siya by 0.48, so that is 199 ang iyahang mahimo nga number of trips sa home-based other. Now sa non-home-based, we have 415 multiplied by, so that is above man siya sa 32, so nasa sa mga 0.34. So 415 times 0.34, that is equal to 141. Then 415 multiplied by, so ang ato ang home-based work is above sa 17, so nasa sa mga 18. So 415 times 0.18 multiplied, okay, equal to 75. All in all, the total for the home-based other, we have 327. Sa number of non-home-based, we have 221. Then sa home-based work, nasa 118. So these are the total number of trips per purpose. So that is how to do the cross classification method class. Okay. So another example. Okay, so let us discuss with the trip rate analysis. So trips generated at household N are referred as productions and attractions. If going to zones such as work, school, or shop because of purpose, this analysis is more suited to trip attractions rather than productions. Okay. Now, ang trip analysis class is more on magamit ta sa ato ang table compared to cross classification. Sa cross classification, kinahanglan nato nga kita mismo mag-generate. But those generation class will be based according to the data nga ato ang na-gathered through survey, no? Okay. Now, kini siya is bunga magyapon ni siya sa survey method, so that is why naka-create ta og table. Okay. So, ang diri sa trip rate analysis class is ang iyang gikuan niya dire is more on the, okay, yang same lang gyapon siya is to determine the number of trips per day, but it is more concerned about the number of trips, either production or attraction. But mas kuan siya sa attractions, no? Ginagamit kay siya for attractions. Okay. So this is an example for table 12.7 kay trip generation rates by trip purpose and employee category. So more likely on attractions, no? We have home-based work, home-based other, and non-home-based. Okay. So let us do a sample problem. A commercial center in a downtown contains several retail establishments and light industries. Employed at the center are 220 retail and 650 non-retail workers. So determine the number of trips per day attracted to this zone. Okay, so in order for us to determine the number of trips that is attracted to the certain zone, so we'll make use of this table, no? Table 12.7 that is provided, no? Okay. So by that, to determine the number of trips per day attracted to this zone, okay, first we must identify the number of retail workers. We have 220 retail workers based on the problem. Then we have 650 non-retail workers. Okay, to identify the number of home-based work na trips, first let us multiply the 220 and the factor that is coming from this table. Now, ang atuang quantity is 220 retail workers. So, pangitao na itong retail workers. So, that is attractions per downtown retail employee, no? So, that is 1.7. So, retail, no? Okay. So, pangutana, sir, how about kung sir, other retail employee. Kung i-mention niya nga other retail, okay, magamit na to ni nga values. Pero ang i-mention dire is retail workers naman, so dire ta, no? Retail employee. So that is 1.7. Next is okay, plus 650 multiplied by the factor for the non-retail workers. Sa non-retail workers, that is 1.7 ng yapon. Okay, so therefore, 220 times 1.7 plus 650 times 1.7 equal to 1,479 para sa home-based work. Then, we have home-based other. Okay, for retail workers, we have 220 multiplied by pila sa kwan. So, that is, for retail employee, 5, no? Plus, 650 for non-retail multiplied by the factor for non-retail, that is 2, no? This one. So, kung isum up niyo na sila, that is equivalent to 2,400. So, for non-home based, so 220 for the retail workers, iyang factor niya multiplier, that is equal to 3, no? So, 220 times 3 plus 650 plus, so pila ang iyang multiplier, so that is non-retail. So, that is 1, no? Okay, so therefore, it all sum up to equal to 1,310. So, ang total ani class sa trips generated in all different types of purpose, so that is equal to 5,189 trips per day. So, that is how to calculate the number of trips based on the balancing naman trip rate analysis, no? Okay. So that is the final answer. Next is balancing the trip productions and attractions. Okay, this balancing method is done when the total number of trip production does not coincide with the trip attraction. So na magay tendency class, no, nga mas daghan ang trip attractions compared to trip production. So since trip productions which are based on census data are considered to be more accurate than trip attractions. Kaya ang trip attractions manggod medyo kuan kay siya, no, kanang unpredictable usahay, no. Kaya for example, kanang usahay kanang wala sa plano ba, no, kanang gikan kag sa work, gikan kag home to work, tapos pag abot nimo sa work maka-decide ka nga ay maglakaw ta bay, no, hapit sa ta og kuan kanang mga Jollibee o mga kaunta sa gawas. Okay, so kanang may mga unpredictable nga mga trips, so dili na siya part sa ato ang analysis, no. So therefore, since trip productions are more kuan siya, no, mas kaning reliable when it comes to number of trips compared to the trip attractions, so that is why kinahanglan nato balansihon sila. So accordingly, trip attractions are usually modified so that they are equal to trip productions. So in order for us to balance a certain trip, so let us have this sample problem class, no? Okay, perform the balancing for home-based work trips given below. Okay, natay given nga number of zones 1, 2, 3 and their number of productions and attractions. So this is what we called as the unbalance, is because their total for production sa ato ang per zone is 100, 200, 300. All in all, we have 600. Sa attractions, 240, 400, 160, total is 800. So kung makita nimo sila class, dili sila balance, no? Now, in order to balance that one, first, okay, to balance the total number of trips between production and attraction, must first calculate the multiplying factor by, okay, so we have total number of productions over total number of attractions. That is, katong ganiya is 600 over 800 nga attractions. So, all in all, we have 0.75. Now, to get the balanced number of attractions, adjusted number of attractions, ang gidong sa unbalance, multiplyan nato siya og katong multiplying factor nato, adjustment factor nga 0.75. So asa man ni dapit ganing 0.75? Kining gikan ni siya sa total productions og total attractions. We have 600 divided by 800, ang result 0.75. Now this 0.75 mo siya gamito nato para i-multiply nato sa tuang number of attraction each diri sa tuang unbalance o para maka-provide ta og balance, no? Okay. So we have 240 multiplied by 0.75, the result is 180. Then 400 multiplied by 0.75, that is 300. Then 160 multiplied by 0.75, that is 120. So all in all, the balance na siya which is equivalent to 600. So that is how to do the balance, no? Okay. So the last method for para sa tuang trip generation, we have the multiple regression. So the most common method of approach is regression analysis. So this is done by minimizing the squares of the differences between the observed and expected values of dependent variable. Okay. So when the dependent variable is linearly related to the independent variable, the process is known as linear regression analysis. When the relationship is with two or more independent variables, the process is known as multiple linear regression analysis. So karon class, base sa to ang example nato, so we will be dealing with multiple linear or multiple regression. So either it could be linear or dili sila linear. Well, kani siyang multiple regression class is naa kay freedom to change the variety of your formula, no? But more likely mo ni siya ang general formula. Y is your dependent variable and we have X is your independent variable. Now, ang ganong gitawag nato ang Y as dependent variable because whatever the value of X will be also the value of your Y, no? Okay. So, this A and B right there is what we call as the coefficients sa ato ang regression. Now, these coefficients are somewhat the multipliers that may adjust the type of regression to ang makam up sa to ang data, no? It could be linear or dili siya linear. Now, ang kaning siya class, ang kining coefficient nila can be calculated by these equations, no? Now, to get your A, you're somewhat using this formula, no, sa to ang regression. Well, for me class, medyo kwan kay ni siya, medyo technical kay ni siya, medyo lisod kay ni siya i-absorb nga process is because dagan kay tag mga formulas i-consider. So more likely class, multiple regression man god, sometimes it prone ni siya usahay pag mamali ka og kwan, mamali ka himo sa imong coefficient, posible nga mali na pod ang imuhang pag forecast, no? Mali na ang ma-provide sa imo nga figures. Okay. So ang multiple regression is somewhat kanang kuan siya class, no? Kanang kinahanglan siya og accuracy when it comes to producing such coefficients, no? Now to check whether your coefficients or your estimated regression function or coefficient for determination, okay, to measure that one, okay, you must make use of the suitability formula, no? Okay, so using this kini nga formula, no? Okay. So para magamit nimo siya class, para ma-identify nimo nga okay ang imong gamiton nga regression formula. Okay. So it should be that the result of R squared is closer to 1. The better the regression fits pag closer siya sa 1. Pero kung layo gani siya sa 1 gani, so that is kinahanglan nimo mag-adjust sa imong regression formula. Okay. No? At least na ay naga-check, no? Na ay naga-confirm nga tama ba nga to ang regression formula nga to ang gamiton or dili, no? Okay. Okay, so we have a following example. Okay, a multiple regression analysis shows the following relationship for the number of trips per household using this formula. Okay. So we have T as the number of trips per household per day. And we have the following coefficients of 0.82 as constant, then 1.3 as the multiplier for the numbers of persons sa atong household. And we have 2.1 as the multiplier for the number of autos per household. Take note class that this formula is na siya duha ka buok independent variables, which is number of person and number of auto. Okay. So given that in particular traffic analysis zone so contains 250 household with an average of 4 persons and 2 autos for each household. So determine the average number of trips per day in that zone. Okay, so to determine the number of trips per day on that zone, so magamit tani nga formula. Given that naatay 4 persons and 2 autos for each household, and there are about 250 household. Okay. So step 1, calculate the number of trips per household. So using the formula, T is equal to 0.82 plus 1.3P plus 2.1A. Then we have 0.82 plus 1.3 times 4. Okay, 4 persons man to. Then per household, that is, there are number of autos that is 2, no? 2.1 times 2. So the result is 10.22 trips per day per household per day, no? Then sa step 2, in order for us to determine the number of trips for the entire zone, so the total number of trips we have to multiply simply the 250, no? The total number of household, which is 250 times the total number of trips per household per day, which is 10.22. And the total number of trips per day is therefore 2,555 trips per day. So the other mathematical formulas establish the relationship for trip length and percentage of trips by auto or transit or a particular travel route are selected. Okay, so that is how to do the regression. Dali lang buhaton ang regression class when it comes to solving a problem, pero ang nakalisod ani is to formulate the formula, no? Mag-generate sa formula, mag-imbento sa formula. Walang gina ang lisod sa multiple regressions. Okay, I think that's all, no? Para sa ato ang trip generation and for the chapter 4 part 1. Okay, so if you have questions and clarifications, you may I don't know if maka-comment pa mo sa kuha or dili, but pwede man pod mo kuha, no? Mo approach sa kuha anytime. So kung dili man ko maka-reply sa inyo, so more likely medyo nalang ko yung mga ginahimuan nga time. Okay, so that's all, no? Thank you for your time and hope see you for the next entry. Bye!